We've talked about some of the Jewish symbols in Revelation and how they're reinterpreted or reapplied, but Revelation also reapplies other symbols from its day, not with modern newspaper hermeneutics, but in a sense borrowed from the newspapers, so to speak, of Revelation's day. Various interpretations have been proposed for the meaning of 666, for example. Luther said it was the Pope. The Pope said it was Luther. Democrats thought it was Ronald Wilson Reagan, with 6 letters in his first, middle, and last names. Republicans tend to think it's Bill Clinton or one of his successors, but in any case, if you make up the rules as you go, you can make any number come out to 666. You can make Barney the dinosaur come out to 666, or me, or whoever you want. Where I was an undergraduate, some of the students actually made one of the teachers come out to 666. But in the first century, there were actually rules how to get numbers from names, because different Greek and Hebrew letters stood also for different Greek and Hebrew numerals. They didn't have their own numerals separate from the alphabet. So some had played with Nero-Caesar's name in Greek. And in Greek, they calculated also the number of the saying he killed his mother, which incidentally Nero-Caesar had. And they said, hey, look, it's the same. So you find it on bathroom graffiti around the Roman Empire for a while. Nero-Caesar is his name. Killed his mother. It is the same. Well, what happens if you spell Nero-Caesar in Hebrew letters, of which John seems to be fond occasionally because he's got a bit of Hebrew with Abaddon and so on in his book of Revelation. If you spell it in Hebrew letters, Nero-Caesar comes out to 666. Is that a coincidence? Well, some people suggest it is. They point out that there's a different way to spell Nero-Caesar. That way actually is attested later than this way, but that way, interestingly enough, comes out to 616, which also, interestingly, is what some later scribes of Revelation wrote instead of 666 here, probably because they knew what the riddle was supposed to come out as, and they were spelling it that later way. Revelation speaks of a head wounded to death, but then revived. And this is a parody on Christ's resurrection, but it may also be something else. Because Nero died on June 9th in the year 68. But Romans and Jews both expected his return. In fact, Dio Chrysostom said that most people still think he's alive. Some impostors actually arose claiming to be Nero and getting people to follow them, just maybe 5-8 years before the book of Revelation was written. One such impostor arose and actually got the Parthians, Rome's most feared enemies, to follow him and invade the Roman province of Asia. That's where the 7 churches were. So this was somewhat of a live issue in their context. Also in Revelation 17, verses 9 and 10, it warns of a coming evil emperor. It speaks of emperors who were, as opposed to the emperor who is. And then it speaks of an 8th emperor who will come, who was one of the 7. The scary thing is that all the emperors that preceded the emperor who currently was emperor were dead. That's why the current emperor was the current emperor. But one of them was coming back. Well, they speak of this one as one who was and is not, but is to come, which is a parody on God, who is and who was and who is to come. Just like 666 may be a parody on the number 7, trying to imitate but not making it all the way. However, it may also have to do with the idea of Nero coming back. Nero was one of the early emperors, coming back, and it fits, especially if you leave out the 3 interim usurpers who didn't last very long. Does this mean that we should expect a literal new Nero to come back? Probably not any more than we should expect a literal Moses or Elijah in Revelation chapter 11, although some people do, and I understand that. But probably no more than we should expect the literal plagues of literal Moses on a literal Egypt to happen again, even though the evil city is called Sodom and Egypt in Revelation chapter 11 and verse 8. It can't actually literally be both Sodom and Egypt and the place where our Lord was crucified. Rather, it's saying this was like Egypt, these are like Moses and Elijah, and in this case, this guy is going to be like Nero. Who was Nero like? Nero burned Christians alive to light his imperial gardens at night. He also killed Christians in a variety of other ways. It would be like somebody today saying, you thought Hitler was bad, or Pol Pot, or Stalin, or so on. Wait till you see what's coming. In other words, it's saying we need to grow strong in our faith. If we love Jesus, we should be prepared to give our lives for him. And isn't that what Jesus already taught us? If you want to follow me, take up your cross and follow me, and I'll give you eternal life. Jesus is worth everything, even our lives, and we must be prepared to follow him, even in the face of death, because he promises us that if we are faithful to him, we have eternal life.